I invite my brother, who I hardly ever see in Cote d'Ivoire, and I have to come all the way to Brazzaville to meet Mr. Felix Bikpo. Mr. Felix Bikpo is the chairman of the African Guarantee Fund. Yeah. So thank you very much, panelists. I know Steve's first question, which is a question I look forward to hearing the answers from all of you. Private and institutional capital remains underdeployed in Africa, despite rising demand. What is the single biggest structural barrier, and who's best placed to remove it? I'll start.
The first one will be the political stability and the legal environment, which is very important, I think. And the last, legal environment, inclusive in the political stability, and most important for me is the risk perception.
Okay. Yeah. How can credit guarantee and risk mitigation instruments be scaled to unlock financing for SMEs and infrastructure projects? But let's focus on SMEs while remaining financially sustainable and crowding in private investors.
Thank you, Solomon. I can talk only about SME. I don't know the other things. I think the objective here is that, based on your question, is to see how we can structure this credit guarantee or other guarantee institution to be able to reduce the funding gap that exists. It's common knowledge today that we spoke about it several times. The resources that exist in the continent is close to $4 trillion. Analysis are showing that almost 60% of these resources are sitting in the banking system. Now, the funding gap of the SME compared to this number is just $400 billion. Just $100 billion. So there's enough money in this continent to cover this gap. Why can't we do that? We can't do that for 4 reasons. Okay. The first reason, if you want to scale up, is, and we all spoke about it, is to see how we can reduce the perceived risk. SME, more than anything in this continent, is suffering from this perceived risk. Sorting out this perceived risk needs for us to be able to change our way of doing things, change the operating model of the guarantee business, and strengthen more the risk framework. That's important. Once done, you can easily increase the willingness of those who have this money, I'm talking about the banking system, to come to the market. With a perceived risk, we can't do anything. We have to add to the perceived risk the real risk. I like what the former panel said. In this continent, it's easy for a bank to book its loan to an SME, to P&L, than going to the legal route. It's less expensive for him booking a P&L to go into legal route. So we can't, even if we want, we can go there. So this barrier, like you are talking, that is embedded in the perceived risk has to be handled before we move on. So that's done. Let's assume that that's okay, that is being done. AGF is working hardly to make it happen. We need now to build our capacity. Today, look at my operation. We have around $10 billion of guarantee requests waiting in the pipeline. Our shareholder fund is close to $300 million only. Whatever you do, you can't match it. $300 million. And this $300 is already committed to the existing portfolio, meaning that you run away. Well, if you call me for another guarantee, I just pick your call. I don't pick your call. That's the reality. So what can we do? We see if we reduce the perceived risk, helping the lender to take more risk. If we reduce the perceived risk, bank will be happy to go to this SME business because, by the way, SME business give more return than any other business. The return are higher. So there is no bank that doesn't have to have a return. So just reduce the per service and we see how we do it. $300 million for $300 million for $10 billion is nothing. So what we want to do at AGF, that's the second issue, is to see how we can use our current public resources to absorb the first loss. The current and the coming public resources to absorb the first loss. The remaining senior debt will be highly attractive to any investor that can serve the other investors, like pension funds, like some philanthropic institutions, impact fund, and even some private sector, real public sector, because they are the kind of matters that will help us to come to test the SME risk. We cannot decide the Pacific is finished. We can come gradually to understand, but in reality, the risk is perceived, is not real. But this kind of arrangement using the innovative blending finance model give a kind of comfort to them to go and experiment, I like this word, with us, this word, and say, it's not that bad. They're just believing that, like a lot of things in Africa, I'm sorry. Build your capacity, build your shareholders' capacity is now the key things to be able to move. Having done that, the guarantee business is a specific business. It just gives comfort. We need to make sure that we give the comfort, we continue to give the comfort to the lender, thinking about the banks and the others, and also the investor. A rating, securing a rating is very the SMEs to prepare the file in line with what the banks want and the citizens want. In fact, they are the vis-a-vis of the bank and not only. So we are doing that in several countries and we pay for that. It's part of our capacity building. This is why when we raise the money, the capital, we raise the capital once and we ask our shareholder to add another 10 to 20% for this capacity building fund, which for us is also our re-guarantee. Somebody asked me, how do you guarantee people? How do you guarantee? How are you guaranteed? And I say, by the capacity building.
Okay.
This capacity building reduces the risk and reduce the default and help these two people to be able to know each other and to continue. And then we have succeeded.
Okay.
Without that, without the funds that we are requesting that exist in the continent, we cannot do anything. And we think, talk, nothing will happen. Yes, infrastructure are important. The trade is our basis. But I strongly believe that the real engine of the growth in this continent is the SME. And we tend to forget it. Thank you.
No, thank you. It's a Pan-African institution. So the $10 billion of, demand for guarantees you mentioned is really Pan-African. So we need to find a way to help AGF better recapitalize. What are your plans in the short term to recapitalize beyond the 300 million?
Yeah.
Very quick, yeah. And how can we help? Because there are investors in this room.
You asked me the most important question. You want to be quick. I will try in two sentences. As I said, the first thing is to find our government or other public sources to come to absorb the first loss. Okay. What you are doing today, we are talking to some African governments, South African institutions, government-related, to be able to provide us with this first loss tranche. That's the basics. That's a good atlas. Based on that, we are discussing with some institutional investors, like the pension fund in the continent and some philanthropic institution or impact fund that exists in the continent, to come to take the senior debt. we will go shortly to a roadshow. As you can see, I can't see the road, but so we have a special department for fundraising at AGF to structure all of that. Objective being for the next 3 years, push the capital from $300 million to $1 billion. And 2 and 3 years later, to go to $5 billion that will help us to unlock at least $100 billion in the continent. But that's not enough. We can't do all alone. And by definition, a guarantee business is a risk-sharing business. The platforms that the AfDB is suggesting is to see with our sister guarantee business in the continent or outside the continent to syndicate the guarantee business for risk-sharing and for scaling up also.
Yes.
Syndicate this guarantee business in syndication, in re-guarantee, and sometimes in co-guarantee. So these are initiatives that the AGF management is working on it, and where the board insists seriously because we need to reduce this funding gap by minimum 50% in the next 5 years. That's our commitment.
All right, no, thank you very much, Felix. I'm looking at Shanti. On that note, thank you very much. We've run out of time, so I can't do my last sweeping question, but we've heard lots of good views from different perspectives. So please join me in thanking my panel. Thank you.